We interrupt our regular programming to bring you breaking news. A major strike is currently underway in the Middle East. Stop. To geopolitical experts, this trajectory was set in motion long before the launch. It is the result of a machine running for decades. The news cycle focuses entirely on the payload and the blast radius. We obsess over the specific type of weapon or the immediate casualties. But fixating on the explosion obscures the invisible machinery that actually pulled the trigger. To understand why this missile is in the air, we have to reverse engineer its flight path. We need to peel back the historical turning points, the decades of shadow warfare, the anxiety over nuclear capabilities, and a sprawling geographic network of proxy forces. Treating the conflict as a series of isolated, random emergencies makes it impossible to grasp the logic driving it, or to identify the forces that keep the engine running. The modern architecture of this rivalry took shape in 1979. The Iranian Revolution replaced a US-aligned monarchy with an Islamic republic that fused anti-imperialist ideology with fierce hostility towards Israel. This moment transformed Iran into a revisionist force and redefined its relationship with the West. The balance shifted again with the 2003 US invasion of Iraq. By removing Saddam Hussein, outside intervention inadvertently eliminated Iran's primary regional rival. The collapse of the Iraqi state created a massive power vacuum, allowing Tehran to project influence directly to the borders of its enemies. Over time, the conflict moved underground into shadow warfare. Intelligence services began relying on cyber attacks, the sabotage of critical facilities, and the targeted assassination of scientists and military commanders as routine tools of statecraft. These covert operations are often chosen because they appear precise and deniable. In practice, they destroy the trust required for diplomacy. Once secret killings and facility disruptions become standard, each side begins to read the other as a system to be degraded rather than a partner to be negotiated with. This creates a security dilemma, a trap where defensive moves by one side are experienced as offensive threats by the other. Eventually, leaders become convinced that staying still is far more dangerous than striking back. Beneath the regional competition sits a deeper psychological engine, the anxiety surrounding Iran's nuclear program. For Israel, a nuclear-capable rival would eliminate its freedom of action and alter the strategic psychology of the entire region. This fear drives preventive logic. It compresses time, convincing leaders that waiting is suicidal. The danger only has to be possible. When a potential arsenal is framed as an existential threat, compromise becomes betrayal. Diplomacy disappears because negotiation seems slower than force. Fear of the future becomes the ultimate moral alibi. By focusing on a hypothetical bomb that might exist later, leaders frame a justification they need to authorize real destruction in the present. This rivalry is not a simple bilateral contest. Iran and Israel anchor a vast network running through Lebanon, Gaza, Syria, and Iraq. These proxy structures let states project power far beyond their borders, providing strategic reach without the costs of a conventional ground war. Heavily armed proxy groups like Hezbollah and Hamas change the deterrence math. If Israel considers a direct strike on Iranian territory, it must factor in the cost of a massive rocket barrage from its immediate borders. Because external superpowers are woven into these alliances, a local strike is often a global message. Every clash tests the credibility of the United States and its ability to maintain the broader regional order. This grand strategy creates a landscape of flattened city blocks. When regional rivals fight through proxies, civilian populations become the involuntary staging grounds for a chessboard they do not control. In a region this compact, geography makes insulation impossible. A single misread signal can immediately pull a dozen different actors into the fire, transforming a local border incident into a regional crisis. If every official claim is one of self-defense, we have to ask why the cycle of escalation continues to expand, rather than settle into a stable equilibrium. The durability of this conflict is built on the crisis economy. Prolonged instability mathematically shifts resources toward those best organized for confrontation. Security institutions secure unquestioned budgets. Intelligence agencies gain impossible latitude. For those who manage the shadow war, relevance is power. Domestic politicians also extract a dividend from the tension. By directing the public's emotional attention toward an external enemy, leaders can unify a fractured population and distract from internal failures. Fear becomes a reliable tool for political survival. For the institutions and leaders who thrive on emergency politics, permanent instability is not a failure of the system. It is a sign that the system is functioning exactly as it was designed to. Look back at the frozen missile. We are seeing the combined weight of historical trauma, shadow operations, and the institutional incentives demanding its launch. When the timeline resumes its path, the weapon reaches the only target that the vast hidden machinery allows for. True de-escalation will never be achieved simply by intercepting rockets in the sky. You cannot solve a structural political crisis with a military filter alone. To stop the bombs, we have to look past the blast radius and begin dismantling the decades-old ecosystems, political, proxy, and psychological ecosystems that have learned how to profit from permanent fear.